Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Today we have a very exciting live stream. I think it might be one of the most important ones we've ever done. We're going to be having a dear personal friend of mine, Latoya Clark-Horne, and she's going to talk to us about Juneteenth and how we celebrate it, and then we're going to talk about some resources that are available. So basically, Latoya, thank you, and thank you for coming here today and setting aside this time. Well, I want to give a little bit of history about Latoya. In addition to us being friends, she has been the librarian at Forest Hill for a number of years. She was there. I don't know what all you did, but I know I saw The Barber of Seville. It was an amazing production. So apparently, no, wait, that wasn't, which one was it? Sweeney Todd, right. Okay. That was the most elaborate set I've ever seen built for a high school production. It was awesome. I wanted to put it in my backyard when you were through. And then the thing I really think is cool, I mean, this is the librarian, so she's doing drama on the side. You also launched a Comic-Con for kids. Okay, that's not dead because I want to come alongside you and we want to resurrect that because you and I are both very, very fond of books. So, as we were doing a little prep for this live stream, we did point out that we could talk forever to each other. So, let's get on subject. Why don't we do that? So, today is the 155th anniversary of the event for which Juneteenth it was established. So let's start there. What is Juneteenth, and tell us about what happened 155 years ago?
So the short version, Juneteenth is believed to be the longest running celebration observing the end of slavery in the United States. It commemorates the day, which is today, June 19th of 1865, when word of emancipation reached the deepest parts of the former Confederacy. In this case, it was Galveston, Texas. General Gordon Grange of the Union Army read the order aloud, and at that point, 250,000 enslaved Africans in Texas, and keep in mind this was 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, they were finally liberated. So Juneteenth, by the way, is also a day of reflection and remembrance to honor those who fought for freedom.
And that, honestly, 2 years after Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation,
yes,
these people finally got word.
Yes, finally got word.
Finally got word.
A lot did happen in between the signing of the Emancipation and this particular day. Oh gosh, where do I begin?
But still, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. I can say that there were a lot of battles in between that time in that time frame. One of those battles, believe it or not, Harriet Tubman led the charge. She was the first woman to lead that assault. It was at the Combahee River raid during the Civil War, of course, and 700 slaves were freed as a result of that. So as you see these battles take place, you see a lot of the formerly enslaved Africans joining the ranks of the military. It's very, very neat.
Yeah, well, okay, I know we can't go into much more detail because we have to end this before dinner time. But okay, in this era of social distancing, I know a lot of events that would have taken place have been canceled. But talk a little bit about how we celebrate. I know there's an activity going on right now on Ferris Street in Jackson. It's ending, but there's something tomorrow. How does modern Juneteenth look right now?
Whew. So in the era of COVID-19, of course, everything has changed. And social distancing is increasingly important right now. So if you keep things to your family, that is also, perfectly fine. A lot of times people will have their own little cookouts or barbecues. They'll get together for family time just to talk through the history, to read books. There's also some really, really neat guides on the Smithsonian's website where they have activities for kids, such as making their own Juneteenth flags. It's really neat. There's also times for prayer, for fellowship, even down to the food, believe it or not, what is cooked or prepared, I should say, can reflect the Juneteenth celebration. Red is a very common color that is used. So, and that's for food and for drink. So you'll see your watermelons and your hot links and strawberry pies and red velvet cake. That color symbolizes the bloodshed and the resilience of the enslaved.
Okay. This is just so neat. And I'm going to interject here. This needs to become a national holiday.
Absolutely.
I mean, the truth is, yeah, that we have a 4th of July, but that's in July. This is June. Anyway, when we've got this kind of weather and all of that, we just need as many parties as we can come up with. And this sounds like a reason to party. Now, I really didn't hear much about Juneteenth until I moved to Mississippi.
Right.
It just wasn't something that was on the radar where I was in Florida. So let's talk about how to learn more about it. Tell us a little bit about that. You know about some resources parents can go to.
Exactly. And I do want to piggyback off of what you said, too, about a lot of areas not knowing about it, not it being on their radar. I think today's climate, thankfully, is bringing this more to light. Because even from my experience growing up, it wasn't taught in my school. You know, this was something I learned from my own family. Now, thankfully, there have been, you know, groups to really, really promote Juneteenth. And I think that's what started a bit more of the educational process. But yes, indeed, there are areas that talk about it more, especially in Texas. But as far as some of those resources, like I said, the Smithsonian is absolutely phenomenal. It's their National Museum for African American History and Culture. They have a lot there on their website. There are a lot of virtual festivals going on. We have the Amistad Center for Art and Culture. They're doing a jazz and R&B session with some saxophonists. That should be really neat. The Karamu, which is the United States' oldest Black theater, it's over 100 years old. They're hosting a 90-minute event tonight. So if you just Google KARAMU, you'll find it. Fort Worth is even doing some things. They have the stage play, Juneteenth, will be live streamed. So it's just some really cool offerings going on across the nation. Because as you said, you know, locally, it's just a little difficult right now.
Yeah. And it sounds like people can go and Google Juneteenth 2020 and events or virtual events, look on Facebook. Also, on the Parents and Kids website, we've worked really hard to come up with a list of resources and websites, and we've got a couple of really good articles there. And then all the books we're going to mention in this broadcast, we're going to have there as well. So Latoya and I are both former librarians, but Google is your friend. In the absence of a librarian, go to Google. But there's tons of things available. We did lament a few minutes ago that some of the books we're going to talk about are in print and others are not. But right now, there's been a run on these kind of books on Amazon.
Yes.
And
a lot of these titles I've noticed, you know, that were in stock one day were not a few hours later.
Yeah. That is just so encouraging to me because that means people are interested and they're learning about it and they're buying these materials to share with others. So all in all, that's a good thing. Maureen Thompson has just sent a message in to us. Thank you, Maureen. This is coming in through Facebook. And she's giving us details about a march tomorrow.
Okay.
And when we get more information on that, a link will go up on the screen. But thank you, Maureen, for mentioning that. And on Farish Street tomorrow, there's some activities. And I think if you Google Juneteenth 2020 Jackson, Mississippi, you'll find some things. Be careful. You're going to find things from 1918, 17. So just, I did that the other day. It was like, wow. And then I realized, oh, that was another year.
If I'm correct, the Clarion Ledger put out a list as well. So that might be a good source to check.
Okay. And also Jackson Free Press is always good.
Absolutely.
So, Jillian Smart is giving us a message off our Facebook page, says, love the Smithsonian resources.
Yes. It's great. It really is great. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah. I just want to live in the Smithsonian, but I don't think they're offering apartments yet.
Not yet.
Well, let's segue to the books. You've come up with a list of just a sampling of resources that are available. So let's start with that. I think the cover of this first one really is just adorable. It's Juneteenth for Mazie.
Yes, yes. So in this story, it starts in what I would call recent times. You have this little girl named Mazie who is unhappy about some restrictions that have been placed on her life. Uh,
Well, she wasn't allowed during
child
COVID.
who doesn't like bedtime and having not to eat all the cookies, you know. So, but her father explains that the times that she's going through, what she feels is not freedom, is so not the case. And so you have the great 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 grandpa story that comes into play, where he tells about the triumphs and the struggles of the ancestors, and he talks about slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation. So it really really does a great job weaving together those stories from slavery into Selma and the marches that happened for the civil rights era. Lots of beautiful oil paintings in there, and I think readers would love it.
The illustrations, I just want to hang them up. It really is gorgeous. Now, the next one you've told me about is Juneteenth by Vaunda Michaeux Nelson.
Yes.
Tell us about this one and why you like it.
Again, this one talks about the abolition of slavery. It goes through the life of a man who was working in cornfields, a woman who scrubs floors. So it takes different character vignettes. But when Juneteenth takes place, when the word finally comes through, you see this huge celebration, people jumping for joy or crying. They stop walking, and it goes through that emotional side of things. And the paintings in this book as well are also phenomenal. It reflects those emotions of the freed slaves.
Oh, it's a beautiful book too. Now, the third one is All Different Now.
Yes, yes. Now, this one's a personal favorite. And again, it's in part due to the paintings. This one has watercolor, and so it's stunning. This one tells the story of the day freedom finally came, and it's done from a young girl's perspective who lives in Texas. Every day her family gets up to go to work in the cotton fields, and then they finally receive the news that changes their lives forever. And so that's where that phrase comes in: things would be all different now.
Well, it is also lovely. Now, these are books for younger children, correct?
Yes, these are books for, I would say, your elementary age children.
Okay, so the next set, what target audience would these be for?
Middle school, high school. And it, of course, reading level will depend on, on what the student can do. But still, I mean, these are some great stories that a family could even sit down and read together.
Okay, well, tell us about the next one.
So the next one is the story of Juneteenth. It's an interactive history adventure. And I was remarking earlier how if anyone remembers the old Goosebumps of old, where you could pick a path and go down a different journey, it's like that. So you have 3 paths in this story. So you get to experience Juneteenth from 3 different perspectives.
And this is
36 different choices, 22 different endings.
Okay.
Amazing. But your reader's going to play the life of a free slave.
Okay. Well, so this is like that choose your own ending book.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to verify they're all happy endings.
They are happy endings. No worries.
That's good. Well, that whole concept of using a historical event and doing a choose your own ending, that just sounds like a wonderful idea to get kids immersed in history.
Exactly.
Okay. Has Jay read this book?
Jay has not. He's working through a lot of older level books, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. That kid.
Yeah, okay. It was when we went to the Whitney plantation. They had different things there, and he picked them up, and yeah, he's been going through it.
And for our audience, Jay is her son that I've known since he was little, but he was never really little. He's always been tall for his age. I think he's taller than me now.
He probably is.
A very bright young man, so I'm not surprised. Well, tell us about the next book.
So the next one is Come Juneteenth by Anne Rinaldi. And this one is historical fiction. We have a character who was born a slave, and she was unofficially adopted into the slave owner's family after her mother's death. So you have this character and the farmer's daughter growing up as sisters. And then, of course, one day the Union soldiers arrive to say the slaves have been free. So this one is a pretty emotionally moving historical novel about the family, the true meaning of freedom, and those events that led up to Juneteenth. So this one's definitely for your middle to high school readers.
Okay. And you've got one more for middle to high?
Yes, except this one is nonfiction. It's called Juneteenth by Charles Taylor. It's a celebration of freedom, and it gives in-depth coverage of the day that slavery ended in Texas. It has a lot of great real photographs, not your paintings in this one, and historical documents to bring that information to life and make them, make it more accessible.
Oh, that sounds like a great resource for a paper or something too, when you can see the historical document.
It would be.
Now, you and I, before we went live, we probably spent as much time chatting then as we're going to chat now. I was talking to you about some recent reading I've been doing. And thank goodness you have a Kindle, so that when books are out of print, you can get the electronic version.
Exactly.
But talk a little bit about books for adults and messages for adults who really want to wrap their minds around this and understand what we're talking about.
My belief is this: if you're going to truly understand an event, you have to know the context, whatever led up to it, the things that happened after it. And that sort of, helps the brain grasp the gravity of the situation. And so one of those that, and I'm a big fan of photographs and documents, Envisioning Emancipation is a title that I even had well, these next two titles actually I had in the library. Emancipation Proclamation, of course, as we know, one of the most important documents in American history. But this book, you had two historians that amassed over 150 photographs of those antebellum days. And so you have, you have all these photos of people who were enslaved on the plantations. You have pictures of the African-American soldiers in the Union Army. You have pictures of the Juneteenth celebrations. It takes you through that entire timeline visually. And so I know if you're anything like me, visuals mean a lot.
Yeah.
And so, and this book actually got an NAACP Image Award. Not sure of the year, but I remember that it happened for outstanding literary work for nonfiction.
And this one might be one that's out of print.
It is. I think it is, but I know a lot of libraries do have it.
And they did have used copies available.
Yes.
And to tell you the truth, you can tell what a wonderful book it is because there were used copies going for $60 and $70.
Exactly.
That tells you it's super high quality. People want that.
It is.
That one, in another life, I would have clicked buy now. But I might have to save up for that one. But I saw it on Amazon looking at it, and it had, it's a remarkable book. And I'm hoping they'll get it back in print. I mean,
I'm pretty sure after with everything that has gone on and the renewed interest across the board that is occurring, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, that will be good. Now, the next one is Who Freed the Slaves?
Yes, this is another one again I had in my library. So when it comes down to who freed the slaves, a lot of people, of course, want to give credit to Abraham Lincoln. Well, as we all know, a lot of work went on behind the scenes to get the Emancipation Proclamation to become a reality. And so this title goes behind the scenes. It goes to those closed door meetings and the different deals that were exchanged in order to bring this one to life. It's some dense reading, I will admit, but if you can get through it, you definitely come out of it with a greater appreciation for the work.
Now, this one is nonfiction?
Yes, this is nonfiction.
So it's based on letters and things of these people that were involved.
Exactly.
Now, humor me for a little bit, but a few years ago, we watched a movie about Abraham Lincoln, and it showed him visiting person after person in these little closed meetings, kind of negotiating something, along the lines of, I'll make your brother postmaster if you, so this book is about that.
Yes, essentially, yes. Again, and not just Lincoln's closed door meetings, but other legislators, their meetings, even down to Frederick Douglass, who, of course, was a part of these meetings as well. It's it really is a phenomenal piece of work. A lot of lot of research went into this, and he even calls it himself the Battle of the 13th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you call something a battle, you know a lot of work went into that, and a lot of compromises were made.
Yeah, but something important had to happen, and it did. Thank goodness.
Exactly.
Well, share with me your other thoughts about Juneteenth.
From my own perspective, so like I said before, I want to backtrack a little bit here. Through school, I didn't really learn about Juneteenth. Everything with the lessons ended at the Emancipation Proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things where, you're going through just marking A, B, C, or D, which, by the way, I hate. But when I got to talking more with my grandmother, just her own history, that's how the topic came about. And so, because she would even say, even herself, she remembers picking cotton. Of course, she wasn't a slave, but she did that. She worked fields. And so then it got into a history of what she knew from her lineage. And so for me, Juneteenth now has become more of a discovering the ancestry, which can be very difficult. Thankfully, I do have family members who've put together some of that research already. And what I have learned is just absolutely fascinating. We even have a minister in the community who has kept a lot of the artifacts from the irons, the washboards. And so she tells the story of her family. And so I think what Juneteenth really is getting back to the roots and that strength. It's just, it's very personal.
Yeah.
Definitely personal.
And I think one of the things about Juneteenth that struck me when I was reading about it is when these families became free, very often there wasn't a place for them in the local community anymore.
Exactly.
They had to leave. They talked about going, up north. You mentioned joining the military. So,
I mean, they had to. It wasn't safe where they were.
Right. And yeah, there's, when you get freed, I don't think your master is going to give you 2 horses and a wagon and a couple of bags of corn. He's probably pretty unhappy. So, so when all these people had to spread out from where they were freed from, Juneteenth became kind of a reunion type thing.
Yes.
So for the community to gather back together and to visit and talk about what's happened in the past, whatever. I know I was reading about this, and one of the things that struck me was right after the June 19th, this day happened, there were annual celebrations.
Yes.
And I understand from what I read, and you can correct me, but as we got more industrial and factory oriented and less agrarian, employers couldn't give a day off. Where they had previously given their employees a day or an afternoon off on this day. When you're in a factory and the steam thing's going and it's a 12-hour day or an 8-hour day,
that's it.
It died out a lot as we became more industrialized.
Yes.
And absolutely. That's why we have national holidays, is to focus our attention where it should be.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I do hope this, if not, definitely a state holiday, hopefully a national holiday. I love the concept behind it. I like the idea of community. I like the idea of self-reflection and definitely telling stories.
Telling the story. And a lot of businesses now are offering that time off for Juneteenth celebrations. And I think that is wonderful. And I hope they do get involved in the conversation to push for a national holiday.
I can't see who wouldn't, especially given the environment we're in now. And the other thing is, with COVID, I think we've realized how much we all need each other.
Who are you telling? It's like we work, and then all of a sudden this happens, and we realize socially what we've been lacking. Yes.
You were so right. You were so right. I'll tell our audience, the last time Latoya and I were even close to each other was in New Orleans over spring break. Yes. We were both going down there to see some museums and exhibits. You taking your son, and we were taking our niece.
Yeah, I was taking my son to the Stennis Space Center because, he got that invite. And which was phenomenal, by the way. Oh my gosh, we learned so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were right, essentially, what, a city across from each other,
Mhm.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as we were both leaving town, New Orleans was closing around us, and that was spring break, and then it was COVID, and so now here we are. I want to segue a bit. You are the instructional technology coordinator for Hinds Community College.
Yes, I am.
Man, I bet you were busy the week after spring break.
Oh, I was busy the week we were still in Slidell. When you were in New Orleans, I was busy then because I saw where the IHL came down saying that they were going fully online. And next thing I know, I made a phone call. I said, I think I know what's about to happen. True enough, it went down that very day, and we had our meetings and said, yes, that's it. We're moving online. So the process started that very day.
That's crazy, but you did a wonderful job.
So it was definitely the work of the whole e-learning team. I cannot say enough about our little family, as we call them. I mean, they're rock stars. They really are.
Well, the one sad thing about this is Dr. Muse is retiring.
I know.
And then with COVID, we cannot have the celebrations he deserves.
Right. I mean, granted, there were some celebrations, but some things, they had to be completely put on hold.
Right.
But I am glad that, there were some things that did take place to give him a proper send-off.
That is nice. And Hinds, come fall, online is going to still be an option, correct?
Absolutely. Online will still be an option. Granted, the plans are still forming right now for what it will look like in the fall. We are planning on welcoming students back, but it's going to look very different.
Mm-hmm. And I think everyone is wondering about that. We might have to schedule another chat to talk about that. But circling back to Juneteenth, what are your plans for this evening and this weekend with your kids? Are you going to observe it in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Look, my son already knew this was happening. And some of it, of course, we during some films. I'm big into films, and so we've already picked 2 of them. One of them is more recent in nature, is the Ruby Bridges story, because I wanted him to read about that. But aside from that, it's just, again, talking through the history.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had already created a Canvas course for my son. I know that's the teacher in me, to make sure still doing something during the summer. And so leading up to today, I've included a lot of readings on Juneteenth. And so he is well prepared for these conversations today. And of course, I have the arts and crafts for Aria. And I really believe it's going to be a nice time.
Well, I hope that when we have this conversation next year, maybe leading up to Juneteenth, I hope we have to have it a month out, because there's so many events to cover that it just takes that much time. I'm looking forward to a post-COVID world where we can gather together in person. You can come to our office, and but I've enjoyed this time with you remotely. You're always
it's so good to see your face.
Yes. Well, thank you for your wisdom, your information. And I love to talk to you because you love learning, you love books, and I'm just really glad that you're part of my Mississippi.
Oh, thank you. English and history go hand in hand for me. So yes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, audience, thank you for your time and attention. Juneteenth may be today, but the spirit and thought behind Juneteenth is 365 days of the year. And now I'm making myself tear up. We have a chance to be better than we are. And I think we can do it. So, as I get a little bit emotional about this, thank you, Latoya.
Oh,
and we will sign off and see everyone on our next broadcast.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.